So, Jermaine, I'm lonely here.
Hey, that lonely girl.
I'm all by myself. No Latoya, whatever her last name
Oh my
is.
goodness.
No Brian Sanders. No Tim Schindler. No Chivang. No nobody.
Oh my god.
No Kia.
You
They
so
all left me. Well, because they had the day off. And
oh, you didn't tell the whole truth, huh?
well, they had. I gave them the day off. I mean, we gave them the day off because it was after the holiday. So but I'm so lonely. I'm lonely. How y'all doing? This is Tamika Vukovic, co-executive director of Wisconsin Voices. How y'all doing?
Hey, I'm great. I'm great. How about yourself?
Okay, I'm gonna tell you my experience yesterday. Real quick, as before we go into all things election and yesterday I was chilling. I did the Glendale uh, parade. Had a good time there. Went home, and my child calls and says, "Mama, you gonna cook?" And I'm like, "Oh no, no. Look, if all my friends pitch in together and we bring food up in there, can you cook?" And I was like, I'm feeling generous. Yeah.
Mhm.
So she brought three of her friends. Two of them had children, because they at that age that they have friends with kids. One was a 1 month old, like maybe 6 weeks old, and the other one was a 7 month old. When I say I used to want grandkids, I am not ready for them yet. The one they went to watch the the fireworks, and the 7 month old was screaming, just "Ah!" And I'm sitting there holding him. I know he ain't wet. He ain't, he just ate. I don't know why he's crying. So I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, this baby crying so much he starts to sweat.
You
And
crying
I'm like,
hard.
he cried, and I'm still trying to rock him. I'm not losing my patience. So I turned a little box fan on him. It seemed to help a little bit, but he was like rubbing his eyes. He's sleepy. He won't go to sleep.
Mhm.
So finally, I said, "But this fan may be helping, but it's a little chilly. So you know how us black people will turn the fan on, but still put a blanket on."
Mhm.
I gave him that blanket. That little baby went to sleep in 5.2 seconds. So when she came home, I told her all this. She's like, "Oh, he needed his blankie to go to sleep." So all I needed to do to stop that half-hour crying spurt was just give him parts of his blankie, and he knocked out. And when I say he knocked out, people was all in the house. He was still knocked out.
He was out of
He
there,
was out of there.
huh?
Second part is we had a 1 month old there. Now the 1 month old probably is not used to having anybody but her mother, so she just kept not really crying, but whining. And
Mhm.
she wanted a pacifier, but she ain't figured out how to keep her pacifier in her mouth without you holding it. So I
Mhm.
was like, oh, I can't be holding, babe. I don't even carry a purse because I don't like to have things in my hands. So I have decided I am no longer ready to be a grandma. Thank you, Jada, for not having any kids. Because when they came back from the fireworks, I was like, okay, I was real nice. I was like, okay, give me that car seat so I can make sure this baby is in the car seat nice and right. And I put it in the car seat, gave it another baby. Here, let me put this car baby in the car seat. Now y'all go in there and have a good time. And
So have a good
they
time
was
now.
out by 10:15, and I was like, thank you, Jesus. And my husband had jokes this morning. So he came down, we always every day that we have that we're home together on the weekends or like during the week, he makes coffee, kind of watch TikToks, laugh a little bit. But he came and sat down. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, I told them that I'd keep the two babies today." I said, "You told who?" He's like, "The two girls that was here. I told them we keep." I said, "Who's we?" "You and me." I said, even though I'm off today, I said I will be working a full 8-hour day today. So he was like, "No, I'm just kidding." So I know for a fact I absolutely am not ready for a baby,
Ooh. Yeah.
grandbabies. It's just not happening. So we had an election on Tuesday. Um, Interesting. It was I I'm looking at the election results and I'm kind of baffled by all this. And it's because out of these wards, there were so many wards that not one single person voted. Not one. Not one. In Milwaukee, um, let's do election results first. There was a special election for the Senate, uh, Dem Senate seat District 4, because there were no Republicans that ran and no other that had an official person on the ballot. Now, there was some write ins from those parties, the Republican Party, the Libertarian Party, the Constitutional Party. They they came in with a party, but they did write-ins. But so this was mostly a Democratic election, and Dora Drake uh, was successful in winning the special election. It was 65% of the votes casted, which was 4,400. And this is the unofficial numbers, 4,439 to Lakeisha Myers, which is, she had 2,298 votes. And then there was like 14 write ins. Um, it was it was a a race, and then that's a, what is that percentage? I don't even know what that percentage is because I'm a little slow today because I'm still recuperating from those kids that was at my house. I think I'm traumatized. Um, but there was a 31% difference between the two. So this was a special election. That is not the story, though, that I want to talk about. The story I want to talk, there's two folds to this story. Um, Number one, how so few people voted. Now, there was eight 89,396 registered voters in the district. 7,149 voted. Let me give you that number again. Out of 89,396 people, that's how many people are registered vote in that district. Only 7,149 actually turned out to vote. That's a lot of people not voting. That's a huge amount of people not voting. Now we're pushing all this register to vote and get out the vote and all this stuff. But when you register, you gotta vote. You gotta vote. And it's what I'm just trying to figure out what percentage of those people that could have voted that did vote. And that percentage is 8% of the total people that could have voted. Only 8%. 8%. I keep saying this. Let me say this again. 8%. Not even 10%. It wasn't that hard. The lines weren't long. Wasn't raining. It wasn't too cold out. It was a nice, summer day. Why is it only 8% decided to vote in that election? Jermaine, 8%?
Yeah, that's fairly low. That's that's fairly low.
Now, here, 8%. I'm just, and that's in the whole fourth CD. That's including Shorewood, Glendale, parts of all Shorewood, all of Glendale, parts of Brown Deer, and parts of Wauwatosa. And I mean, it's a sliver of Brown Deer and Wauwatosa, just a little bit, a couple blocks even. So the majority of these people live in Milwaukee, Glendale, or Shorewood. Um, Now, this is the thing that irks me to my core is we will get people, and this is, let me do this disclaimer because some of this is just me being upset. So the views and opinions of me or the people who call are not necessarily the views of Wisconsin Voices as an organization. But our three pillars is protect democracy, build community, teach advocacy. We are on this radio show 3 times a week, pushing community involvement, making sure that, people know what they need to do to vote, making sure they have all the information possible to vote. We do, events, we do rallies, we do all kinds of stuff working with our partners. And this is 8% of 89,396 people. 7,149 people decided to go vote. And that's including the people who voted um, write-ins with other parties.
Yeah, that's fairly low, and then somewhat disappointing.
Yeah, I'm not, in a way, I'm sitting here, you know, we constantly hear people call on this radio show
Yeah,
talking about people. I don't like our elected officials. They don't do anything. Now we had two to choose from. And some people chose.
yeah,
And that's not taken away from Representative Dora's Drake's win. It's just that 8% of the total people that were allowed to vote or that can vote, they decided who your representative is.
wow,
8% of everybody who could vote, only they voted.
yeah, yeah,
And now and these are rough numbers. Here's the killer part of all this. Out of the, you know, and I'm going to write this, but roughly 40% of that total vote came from Shorewood and Glendale.
Wait, say those numbers again.
About 40% of those total numbers came out of Shorewood and Glendale.
Wow, so that's almost half.
It's almost half. So what that means is, and this is not taking anything away from Miss Dora Drake winning. It just means that, and I'm in Glendale. Thank y'all in Milwaukee for allowing us to choose who the black representative is going to be, because it's technically that's where for voting purposes, when they redistrict and did all that, that is a black seat. It's supposed to be chosen. Now, it doesn't have to be a black person seat. It's supposed to be a seat that is chosen by the African Americans in that district. That's what that means. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to choose a black person. Doesn't mean that you can choose whoever you want to, but the idea of this is that it is being chosen by the majority of the people in that district, which is black people.
Mm. Yeah,
Now,
that's man. Wow.
do you understand what I'm Do you understand what
Yeah,
I'm saying here?
and I can see, man, that I can see the whole frustration about it. It's like, why isn't Milwaukee taking the initiative to come out and vote for the people that's going to put them in a better situation, in a better position, compared to allowing Shorewood and Glendale and Brown Deer and all another outskirts. You know.
So, out of the Democrats that, and this is, remember, I'm only going by the unofficial that results that were on the um the website.
Mm-hmm.
But let's just look at this. There was, for the Democrats, there was 7,991 votes casted altogether. Oops, let me take that back because I have to add those what do you call it, the write-ins as well. So altogether there was 4,439 votes for Representative Dora Drake. There was 2,298 votes for Representative Lakeisha Myers. And then there was 14 votes in the Democratic Party, and this is only the Democratic side, um, that did a write-in. That's 6,759 votes.
Mm.
65% went to Miss Drake, 34% went to Miss Myers. But this is, I am, I'm a little annoyed that there is some wards that didn't even have one single vote in it. Not one.
Mm.
Zero. Zero. Like zero.
Like nobody.
Like nobody. Not one single person. You know what that mean, right? You know what that mean, right?
No, tell me.
That means no one, and these awards are pretty, they got hundreds of people in there.
Mm.
And there was some wards that didn't have any. Now, I have these numbers and they're rough numbers, but out of the four, roughly, let's just roughly 4,000 out of the 6,751,
Mm.
about 2,400, give or take, were out of Milwaukee. Or I'm sorry, 4,209 were out of Milwaukee. 2,500 were out of the suburbs. That's very, very, very close. That percentage is ridiculous. Well, we got a caller. I'm probably going to get yelled at. So let's see who the caller is. Caller, go ahead. Caller, you on the air.
How are you today?
I'm well. How are you, sir? I'm here by
Um,
myself, so I'm lonely. Thank you for calling.
okay, okay. Well, we certainly, I think that we certainly have had a rough uh, time getting numbers out, and I think that's something that's kind of been historic and ongoing. But I think that at some point, the numbers are what the numbers are, and we have to start encouraging, marketing, and figuring out a way to solve the problem because the problem is clear that it is there, that we have bad numbers. But at some point, we have to decide what the solutions are, and we have to start attacking it, from that place. Otherwise, it will remain.
What did you suggest? Because there's so many people. Like, I'm just gonna talk about my organization for a second. Um, we do rallies. We're on this show constantly talking about trying to give people information, letting people know who the candidates are, what they do, what the work, why is it so important. Um, got a program to assist people to register to vote. Pamphlets, flyers.
Let me say this to you, man.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
My suggestion would probably be the same that I had to my father. He was diabetic, and he would have issues, and I would start saying, "Well, Dad, um, doctor says that you need to start." He said, well, he would start listing the things that he does, and I'll say, "Daddy, still got the problem. So you probably need to assess what it is you do now and figure out something different to do or something more to add."
But that's
And
what
I
I'm
don't,
saying.
and
That's what we
I
like.
don't know.
I know you
I mean, I know
can't.
y'all
No,
do a lot of
no.
stuff.
Here's the thing, and
I don't
this
know.
I'm not trying to say that you have to solve the world, and I'm not trying to do that at all. But I'm saying we sat down in 2020 and said, what are we doing? Because most of the time, we knock on doors, we put these flyers in, that wasn't working. So they said, so the statistics and all this research shows, wait a minute, now maybe social media is the place to go, and making sure you talk directly to people. So we did the radio show, we do events. They said, oh, events may be working because people don't want to open their doors, they sick of the people knocking on their door. It's just, and I get it, I
I
get what
think
you're
y'all doing a
saying.
good. I think y'all doing a good job. I think y'all doing a good job, and I think that you got to continue on the road that you on. But once we look at the results, at some point we're gonna have to get to a place where we say, okay, well, this is the results we're doing from the work. This is the results we're receiving from the work that we're doing. Okay, so how do we enhance where we are? How do we do a better job? This is how we do a better job of that. And then sometimes that's just what it is. Sometimes, so like the one thing is we had 8% of the people that voted. So 100% of the people that wanted to vote, that's who voted.
That's true. That is true. But here's the thing. I just and thank you for, and this is not a argument. I'm just trying to go back and
Oh
forth to try to
no, not at
figure
all.
out
I ain't
what
arguing.
what we need to do. I just I it was ingrained in me so early to vote. I mean, and maybe that was just my mom. Actually, my grandmother is the one that really put that in me. But, she put her little high heels on and walked down to Atkinson Library, and she showed us how it is to vote. So she voted, and she said so many people, and she wasn't a big activist or anything like that, but she saw the struggles that her, she was from the South, and she was born in 1919. So she saw the struggles that happened, and what representation actually means. Now, we usually didn't have a lot of African Americans on the ballot, she said, back in the day, but when there was, she voted, and then she voted for the person who seemed like they were going to, help her cause. And we're trying to do that. We're trying to put on the people who, and they get to tell your story. We don't tell the story. We don't tell their story. We try to get the candidates in and say, who are you? What are you doing? What do you want to do with this? And we're letting people make judgments for themselves, because we don't endorse any candidates. At least Wisconsin Voices doesn't. But what we do endorse is voting. Please. So let's go back to what I was saying is, roughly out of the 6,700 votes that were casted in this, 4,200 came from Milwaukee, and 52% or 2,500 came from Glendale Shorewood, with the, give or take. Now, in Milwaukee, or in the August election, now there's only 7,000 people, but there may be about 3,500 people, 35,000 people who will vote in the August. And here's the thing. Shorewood comes out in 90%. Glendale comes out 90%. 90% of their, give or take a couple of percentages, their registered voters, that's how many come out. When Milwaukee is doing 30, 35, 40%, maybe 50% on a good day, who's going to decide who's in that office? We got another caller. Caller, go ahead.
Hi, I would like to ask a question.
Before you ask your question, can you turn your radio down? And if you're on a speaker or you're using your phone as a speaker, put it on a regular, not to be on
Okay,
speaker, because we're having a
is that
little bit
better?
of background.
Hello?
Perfect. Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay, my question is, I would love to hear you take a survey sometime, if it's not today, as to why they didn't vote. That's what I want to know. Why are they not voting?
I would love to do that, and maybe we'll put that up on a. We really want to put up that. Maybe it's a survey question that we put up on our website and ask people for the next 2 weeks, and we can probably have it up by Monday or Tuesday. Why people don't vote? Now
Yeah,
I've heard. This is what I've heard. I've heard my vote don't count. My vote don't matter. It's not going to change anything. Um, I don't have time that day. I was supposed to do it, but something got in my. I've heard all of these things, but we have absentee ballots. We have, you can call the clerk or you can request a ballot and say mail it to my house, and they mail it to your house, and all you got to do is fill it out and put it back in the mail. There is, you have, like, this particular election, you had from June 18th, I believe it was June 18th, up until last Friday, which was June 29th, I think it was, to early vote at Good Hope, at any of the municipalities of your or the city halls or the municipality offices, 60th and Capitol, Villard Library, all those libraries were open in the district that you could just go in and vote. And so I really want to know, are we that disenfranchised that we just don't care anymore? Maybe.
I don't think so. I don't think it's that they don't care. I'm just hoping that once we hear what the problem is or why, what can I do as a neighbor to maybe take somebody to the poll? I don't know. But once I hear, maybe there's something that I can do that I'm not doing. But
And
that's
that's
all. I just wanted to ask why weren't they voting? Because I know all of the avenues that's available for us to vote. But I thank you for listening to me. Bye bye.
Thank you, ma'am. We're gonna get into so and people, your vote matters. I keep trying to tell you, your vote matters. That is a valuable thing that you have. That vote matters. So we talked about on the show on Tuesday where there was people, and I'm using GOP only because they did sign in to some places as GOP observers, um, that questioned every single mail-in and absentee ballot. It happened in Glendale at the beginning of the day, in Shorewood. I'm not for sure again about Whitefish Bay or Brown Deer. Um, and then when Central Count opened at noon, they were at Central Count in Milwaukee. We're going to take a break and talk about that, and talk about absentee ballots and what the Supreme Court just decided. I think it was even this morning. We'll be right back with Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices, 860 WNOV. are back. We're back. We're back. We're back. What was I talking about? Oh, no, I was just I'm just kidding. There were I just I spend all my time, like literally my time trying to work um to help my community. I'm not asking for praise or anything like that. It's just what I want to do. And then when we have wards that had zero people, zero, zero. Did anybody hear that? I said zero, zero people vote.
That's
Um, it's disheartening, but it's not gonna stop me. It's not gonna. I'm just got to find the last caller was the last two callers really said something that me. Why can't we get people interested in voting? It doesn't take that long. It's literally something that you you can do within, and especially during early voting, it probably takes 5 to 10 minutes. I went to a meeting at I had a meeting at City Hall, and it was during early voting. I was like, "Oh, let me go real quick and go vote." It took me literally 5 minutes, and then I walked out the door. And that was my vote. And it was on the way as I was doing some regular business, within. I was like, "Oh, let me go quick vote." And I early voted. I don't ever Me personally, like I said before, I don't ever usually vote on election day unless something is going on that I did not get there, because I never want to not vote there. But as we were talking, we had people who were questioning every single vote that was absentee ballot or in person voting, early voting, questioning all of them, questioning all of them. And and then one of them actually said, from what I hear, because I did not hear it personally, but said that they're just practicing for November. So what they're doing is actually practicing for November. The first step in this is to figure out a master plan. Now, here's the thing. There was no Republicans or libertarians, constitutionists. Let me see what other um, Constitution Party, Libertarian Party, Wisconsin Green Party, Nonpartisan Crossover. None of those were on the ballot. So this was literally, unless they wanted to do a write-in, which they had the option to do. But um, this was a Democratic primary, pretty much. And they are practicing. They are making sure that they can figure out a way to get ballots off, not counted. And then on top of that, they are tweaking their game plan. The next thing that they're going to do is start questioning the what do you call it, the certification. This is something that we really, really, really need to pay attention to. This is your vote, and I seem like I am like talking out, just like this is the urgency, the world's gonna come to an end. The world's not gonna come to an end, but this is your right to say who you want to represent you. This is all those people who called over the last couple of months, because we've been on since January, listening to them say, I don't like my representation. They ain't no, the only time I see them is when they come in for election time, any of that. This is the time for you to exercise your rights. Um, this these people were actually trying to, and I will kind of read something that I found. It said they're attempting to challenge the certification or ballots in a mass. Now, in the state of Wisconsin, it is against the law to try um to get a bunch of ballots knocked out. Um, we don't allow mass challenges in the state of Wisconsin. The challengers have to have a basis to believe that a specific person in question or a specific ballot in question isn't a valid elector, or that the ballot is disqualified. They have to give, and then they also have to, if there is something wrong with it, they also have to give the voter a chance to respond or to prove that it is reasonable, um, that they are eligible or a eligible voter. Um, Kind of concerned about this because this is what's happening. Um, we have now they've gone one step further in this process. So they have gone in and disrupted some of this, and then they have they have gone further, and we'll talk about that after the caller. Caller, go ahead. Caller,
Hello.
hello.
This is Mayor Brian Kennedy from the city of Glendale.
Mayor Brian Kennedy, City of Glendale. I was kind of waiting for your call because you you have some more information that we're really trying to let people understand how serious they are to try to take the votes and the rights. Um, the democracy is at stake right now. Go ahead, Mayor Kennedy.
Sure. So I can actually give you more information on like who the people were that showed up, what organizations they're affiliated with. And, I mentioned when I talked to you on Tuesday when this was fresh, this had just happened within an hour and a half before that, that, I thought this was a precursor of what we're going to see in November. And now I'm absolutely certain that this is a precursor of what we're probably going to see in all the upcoming elections. Um, so the folks that registered at the 3 polling places in Glendale as observers listed that they were either with the GOP or Concerned Citizens, or that they were with some of these right-wing or alt-right groups. One person was with the Traditionalist Party, which is an alt-right neo-Nazi group. Another person was with Hot Government, and the HOT, I don't remember what it stands. I think it's honest, open, transparent, or something like that. But they're anything but. They basically just go after and try to completely destroy anybody who's on the left. They're another alt-right group. And so we had some pretty extreme folks that were there. 2 of them who showed up are people that we've read about in the papers. Peter Bernegger has filed at least 25 or 30 lawsuits. He's trying to make absentee voting illegal in the state of Wisconsin, saying there's no secure way to do an absentee ballot that isn't subject to fraud. And he has tried to come with every single angle. He was one of the people who was contesting ballots at Glendale City Hall. After he left us, he went to Milwaukee Central count. They didn't start till lunchtime. And so he tried to object to a whole slew of ballots there as well. One of the other people that was at Glendale City Hall disrupting things was a guy named Harry Waite. Harry is the one who tried to secure absentee ballots or request absentee ballots in the names of a bunch of other people and have them sent to his house, because he was trying to prove that anybody can request an absentee ballot. And so he's now had a number of charges filed against him and is awaiting his trial on illegally obtaining absentee ballots in other people's names. So if anything, his requesting ballots in other people's names and then being caught and being prosecuted just proves that there is a check on the system. If you try and request a ballot illegally, you're going to get caught and you're going to get tried and hopefully convicted for it. So those are some of the folks that we saw, and they did tell us they would be back at the end of July. They'll be back at the August primaries. They'll be back in November. And so, yeah, this is Trump's playbook.
This is what he's telling his supporters in the rallies to do. And we're seeing that we've got some bad actors here in Wisconsin who are going to try and disrupt the elections, and specifically going to try to disenfranchise Democratic voters and make sure our votes don't count. A perfect example of this was Tuesday. It was only a Democratic primary. All the ballots that he was trying to object to, Peter Burdicker was trying to object to a ton of ballots. All of them were for Democrats. So it's despicable behavior.
And they're going further to try to isolate as well, because I know they have they sent an open records request to the city of Glendale as well, I believe, and to the election commission.
Yep. Yeah, they sent something to our clerk requesting all of my records, the clerk's records, because I was by 11 o'clock in the morning, I was on your show, and then shortly thereafter, I met with a ton of other press and was doing interviews throughout the remainder of the day. They wanted to know essentially all of my contact with city staff, how I found out about it, and who I communicated with after that. So I've already provided all of that to the clerk so that they can comply with the open records request. But the only thing I did was find out about it and then ask a bunch of questions and then communicate to the press, asking to talk with them about what was happening. So that's the bulk of my communications. But yeah, they've also asked for all of my campaign finance reports for the last 5 years, which, whatever, I got nothing to hide. I raised money from Glendale business owners who really like me, and I spent it getting reelected. So
it's but this is what I'm trying to, and thank you, Mayor Kennedy. We are going to take a short break, and then when we come back, we're gonna talk a little bit real quickly about the Supreme Court decision that just was down about absentee ballot, the ballot boxes. We'll be right back. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices, 860 AM, 106.5 FM, WNOV. And we're back again. I'm so lonely. Earlier there was a ruling. Wisconsin Supreme Court overturned ruling that barred most ballot drop boxes. So I believe back in what was that, 2020, um a lot of the Democrats or people that were on the Democratic side encouraged people to absentee ballot, which was, get your ballot, either drop them off in the, and then, either mail them or drop them back off in the ballot boxes. Later on, the Supreme Court ruled they banned ballot boxes. There was a lawsuit filed um, claiming that the 2022 ruling was incorrect, and decided, and I'm quoting out, due to the fact that Wisconsin is silent on this issue of ballot boxes, while the group has acknowledged that Wisconsin's laws do not clear that absentee ballots must be returned by mail and in person. They raised the question in this case that it remains unclear whether voters can return a ballot in person to a location other than the clerk's office. So, the Wisconsin law never stipulated how ballots should be put in. So when they ruled it, now it's been overturned because of that decision. And the rule only states, and won't be everywhere, the clerks can decide if they're going to put a ballot box in or not. That is up to the municipalities to do. Um, and so where you live, you may not have a drop box, but it's all up to the clerks, I believe. That is the way the ruling is read. But here's the funny thing, though. This just came out recently, but there was some speculation that this ruling was going to be, the bar was going to be overturned. And in May, even at the the Republican convention, the state convention, and other areas, they had been pushing to use the boxes, telling the people who vote Republican to start using the boxes as well. So even though they're fighting against it, they're pushing the use of the ballot boxes, because I guess they might have saw that was coming. But the 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 hypocrisy of it all is trying to fight against something, but let's use it, is just, it baffles me. Um, the undertaking, and then this is from NBC News, reported in May that the Wisconsin GOP would undertake an effort to encourage their voters to use drop boxes in this year's presidential election if the state Supreme Court ruled to instate them, even though they heavily criticized this method of voting in the past, while also making plans to deploy volunteers to monitor drop boxes in heavily Democratic districts. Well, wouldn't you want the election to be fair all around? So why wouldn't, even if they're going to do this, why wouldn't you monitor in the Republican areas as well? Why is it that for some reason, they feel like the only people that need to be targeted is Democratic areas, especially with Milwaukee, where we have the highest population of people of color? This this is serious. And 7%, was that 8%? I'm sorry, 8% of the voters voted in this special election. Well, we have a now, so let's explain what happened with this special election. Miss Representative Dora Drake will we have a general in August or July 30th, and she's the only one on the ballot. So you can go vote for her. She's the only one on the ballot. This election will allow somebody to replace Senator Taylor, now Judge Taylor, for the rest of this term, which ends in January. Now, the August 14th election is critical as well, because that person and those same two people are on the ballot, which is Lakeisha Myers and Dora Drake. They will be on the ballot to do the full 4-year term of Senator Taylor. So these are important. Don't get it confused. And I had one constituent called me and said, "Well, I just voted for a person. Why are they on the ballot again?" Well, you have your the general for the special election, which is July 30th, but then you also have the primary for April 13th. And that is, so they're two different things. Miss Drake, Representative Drake will be our representative because there's nobody else on the ballot on any other party for the general. She will represent the 4th Senate district up through the end of the year. Then the August 13th ballot will decide between her and Lakeisha Myers who is going to represent for the next 4 years starting in January. So these elections are key still. Pay attention. And then we have a presidential election in November. That is key. Let's go out and vote. We're going to try to see if we can on Monday or Tuesday to get a survey up and see, why don't you vote? We want people to go to the website. Maybe we can put it on our Facebook and they can click and just take a short 3-4, question survey of why don't you vote, or what would get you to vote. We've been doing a lot of work on this, and I am going to keep doing what I do to try to make sure that, voices of Milwaukee and the disenfranchised BIPOC community is heard, the marginalized people, because that is what our mission and vision is here at Wisconsin Voices, to make sure we protect democracy, build community, and teach advocacy. So we are 100% trying to make sure that those people that fall into our mission are heard. Well, this is I hope everyone has a good weekend. We'll be back on Monday. Our show is Monday, Tuesday, Friday. This is Be a Voice with Wisconsin Voices. We're on 860 AM, 106.5 FM. You can check us out on our website, wisconsinvoices.org, or our podcast on YouTube. I thank you so much for being listeners of Wisconsin Voices, and you guys have a great weekend.
WNOV 860 and W293CA.